I do, even if, and it's cheesy to say, but if Love Wrestling shut down tomorrow, I would be very proud of what we've accomplished. Again, both personally and professionally.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Tuxerish, and stand back with another video. This time, I'm joined by a very good friend of mine. I'm joined by Spencer Love from Love Wrestling. So, welcome to the show.
Thanks, dude. It's good to see you. It's been a hot minute. I've been in the chat. You've hopped on, I know, with the beards a couple of times. So it's always like good to see you in that sense. It's good to see you face to face, man. Thanks for having me on.
I'm excited to chat with you again, my friend. So, for my followers that may not know, for yours that maybe have stumbled across this but don't know much about you as a person, where do you first discover wrestling as an overall fan, pal?
So for me, it wasn't really with like WWE or WCW, anything like that. My first real experience with wrestling outside of like maybe seeing highlights here or there on the score here in Canada. My first real experience, I was 18 years old. I quite literally just saw a flyer for it was the Prairie Wrestling Alliance, a PWA show out here in Edmonton. So I ended up going alone. I figured why not go and check this out. I just like getting up to activities. I'm very much a yes person, so like took a flyer quite literally and ended up going out. So a lot of people that like are still either wrestlers I love today or now mentors or people like that, Randy Myers, MRB, Michael Richard Blaze, Casey Spinelli. A lot of great wrestlers were on that first card. And like when you see wrestling done really, really well or great wrestling is your first experience, I really think anybody's hooked. 9 times out of 10, 9.9 times out of 10, really. Like you see great wrestling as your first experience with it, you're going to fall in love with it. So, quite literally from there, man, it was trying to go out to as many independent shows as I could. I was sort of going out every other month or every month. I didn't watch any sort of like WWE or anything like that up until about like 2015 or 16. First pay per view I watched, quite literally, was Sting and Seth Rollins in the main event. So,
Oh,
in the
no.
nicest of ways, I was going to say, in the nicest of ways to two real talented guys, quite the opposite of my first experience with independent wrestling. But I was already in love by that point. So, you're going to get some good, you're going to get some bad, and just continued from there. So that's grown into content creation and now running our own promotion out here in Edmonton.
So you talked about the fact that it's grown into as I just realised I have not plugged my laptop in, pal. I believe this happened to you last time.
Yep, there we go. The shoe's on the other foot at this point.
Right. So you
I
did
made
talk.
sure I was all set.
I realised I haven't plugged my laptop in. It's very unprofessional. This, but I have an editor now, so hopefully you can edit this out. So you talked about there, my friend, uh, but discovering it through independent wrestling. So when you did
Yeah.
finally watch a WWE show, what was some of the initial similarities you found, but also some of the initial differences?
I think indie wrestling and like television wrestling or WWE wrestling, whatever you want to call it, I think there's a lot of differences. I really, really do. Obviously, like the production levels of stuff are wildly different in a lot of circumstances. But going out to an independent show, and I think with a lot of live sports, there's this difference. You get that one-on-one interaction. You really get to get into the grit and the grime. Whether you're talking again sports, concerts. I just think that getting out for that live experience is entirely different. Even when you go out to a live WWE or All Elite event or, even TNA, ROH,
Mm.
um, it's very different. It's very, very made for TV. And that's not by any means made in a bad way, but like
Mm.
the production differences, having someone cut a promo more to a camera rather than to the audience around them. It's just a different style. But for me, I just like live wrestling in any possible way I can get it, right? Pro wrestling's a buffet. It's great in most senses, and you can always take what you love out of it.
Mm. So you talked about mainly loving live wrestling, but I'm curious to know, as we record this in February of 2024, which is crazy because I just realized I've known you for about 4 years, which has gone really
Right?
quickly, which has gone really quickly. But as we record this in February of 2024, what keeps you excited in modern wrestling in the TV sense at all?
It's so cliche, man, but like the storytelling with things. I think pro wrestling, as far as just the athletes involved in it right now, like there's never been a more talented time for
Mhm.
professional wrestling. You really should be able to turn on any major promotion, and every match, as far as the in-ring itself goes, they're usually going to be great. You can watch pretty well any TNA pay-per-view, or you can watch any PLE or MLW, anything. There's a lot of great just wrestling out there. Again, it's cliche, but the storytelling with it, it really, really is the storytelling with it. Like, I was like everyone else, but I was madly in love with Sami Zayn's run with the Bloodline. I think the
Mm.
entire story's been
Were
fantastic up
you
until
there?
maybe
I don't
the
think I've
last
asked
couple
you
of
this
weeks.
question.
Yeah, so myself and actually Zach with Love Wrestling,
Oh, you
we had the
was because you did
opportunity.
some media, didn't you?
Yeah, and that was our first opportunity to do that, which I'm sure we'll end up talking about here. But
Definitely.
it really is the storytelling with things, right? You're going to see great matches all the time. I'll tune into a show just because I know there's going to be a great match on it. But the stuff that keeps a guy coming back, whether it is at the independent level or whether it's on TV, is the storytelling with things.
So you brought up the independent level and having your own promotion and content creation side there. Thanks for that beautiful segue. I'm not gonna lie. So you talked about that. You talked about that, pal, and you talked about that and stuff like that. So for people that may not know, we've discussed this before. But what comes first? Love Wrestling, the YouTube channel, or Love Wrestling, the promotion?
Content. Honestly, man, like I never expected to run a promotion. I think everybody like dreams about running a show if you're a wrestling
Oh
fan.
yeah,
You sort of pick
definitely.
and choose, like, here are the wrestlers I'd want to use, and here's where I'd maybe have it, and all of that sort of stuff. But like, I only ever wanted to do content creation right off the bat.
Mm.
That being said, as soon as I got into promoting my first show, I fell madly in love with it.
Mm.
But content by a mile. I started writing for a site called the Win Column Sports Network out here in Edmonton. That would have been in about 2016 or 17. I can't
Mm.
remember which year it was, but the first piece of content that I ever did, it was literally a Royal Rumble preview when like
Mm.
Goldberg and Undertaker and all those guys were in it. So I think 17, but I could be wrong there.
I think that is
Um,
17. Is that the one where Goldberg,
yeah,
where
Goldberg and the
Orton wins
Undertaker had
and
their
Orton
face
wins
off.
it?
So
Orton wins
yeah,
it. Yeah, that is
yes.
17.
So I think it was 17. But literally the first piece of content I wrote was a Royal Rumble preview because Len, who started the website and is still a really great friend to this day, he said, I'll buy you a beer for every preview you write. So I, being a 26-year-old man, started writing a lot of previews.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So from there, it just quite literally grew into, well, I'm loving doing these Royal Rumble previews or just WWE previews. What else can I be doing? So
Mm.
I started to do a little bit of news work. I just personally, A, there's people who are a lot better at it than I am, and B, it's not really my passion is like chasing the scoops. So I started doing interviews at the local level and started covering the shows here at the independent level in Edmonton. So that again is how I really started to get my foot in the door a little bit. Is
Mm.
I started coming out and covering the shows here in Edmonton, which was always a blast. So that carried on up until mid 2020. This little COVID pandemic happened.
Just a little
So just
thing.
because, yeah, so just because there wasn't really a lot of local sports going on, because that's what the Win Column Sports Network really was local sports, outside of my previews, oddly enough.
Mm.
Um, I sort of pulled back on that site. I had owned it by that point. And that's when we transitioned into Love Wrestling. So that launched quite literally at midnight on January 1st, 2021.
Ooh. So you talked
Yeah.
about there. That's very, very cool. And so you did talk about there the fact that you started writing for wrestling only 2 or 3 years after you discovered it. So how do you go from, okay, I'm just going to attend some independent shows and catch it when I can on TV to, no, I think I want to do something involved in the media with this.
Yeah, I've always liked to write. I've always liked the creative aspect of things, right? And pro wrestling, there's a lot of room for creativity in whether or not you're talking about the in ring or anything outside of it, right? So, I really enjoyed writing, but to be honest with you, writing, and again, it was never the plan. In a lot of ways, I've fallen into a lot of the stuff I love, Tom, but
Mm.
it was never really the plan to get into doing interviews. It just sort of came naturally with, again, what
Funny
else can I
enough,
be
that's
doing
my
to get more
story as
involved?
well.
Yeah, so I was writing for a bit. I just started doing interviews and I found I loved the audio visual side of things, whether it's interviews, whether it's podcasting, whether it's doing live streams and hopping on our stuff now like the brunch gimmick. That's what I really, really enjoy doing right now.
Mm.
So I still write from time to time. I really do still enjoy that, but lots of love to it, but it's definitely secondary to being on camera and being behind a microphone.
You talked about there loving being on camera. Was that something that always came natural to you, or was it something you had to work on?
Uh Little of A, little of B. I never really thought that I would be on camera. The first podcast that I ever did was just an audio podcast because I didn't want to be on camera. So myself and Chris Parrish, the first times that I really started hopping on and doing like live streams or anything like that, where he and I actually, oddly enough, started doing just a prediction show for Win Column Sports, where
Mm.
we'd hop on and just do a live stream rather than me doing written predictions at that point because again, I just fall. I loved writing, but figured it was time to start trying to do something new.
Yeah,
So that's where that all started, and I fell in love with it. There's definitely stuff that I've had to learn how to do, like everybody, improving camera quality and audio
yeah,
quality and figuring all of that sort of stuff out. But um, I've always liked to talk. I've never really had a problem with it's the best way I can put it, but like I've never had a problem embarrassing myself. I know I'm not ever going to say something stupid. I know I'm a good person, so
yeah.
as long as I'm out here and enthusiastic about it, well, sometimes I trip up on my words. Sometimes I forget to loop a live video on the brunch gimmick, and you see us just staring there for a couple of seconds.
Mm.
There's still learning to be done, but um, I like to think it came sort of naturally. At least the love of being on camera came naturally. As soon as I go live, I'm very excited to do it. The nerves are always there, but if you're not nervous, I don't think you're invested a little bit.
You you talked about it, and I find that very interesting to talk about with content creators. Having that feeling of you might have had a long day or things like that, but then the moment we go live, energy almost sticks in, almost like I
Yeah.
call it a creator's adrenaline rush. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but like
I
I call
like
it a
that.
creator's adrenaline rush. So how do you sort of get into the zone to be on camera when you are going to be on the brunch gimmick, or maybe you're appearing with the beards or people like that? And how do you get in that zone? But more importantly, how does Spencer calm himself down after he's finished on camera?
Um, to be honest with you, I don't want to use the word easy lightly. It's not easy. And there's certainly been times where I'm supposed to hop on stuff and, have to take a mental health day or take time for myself. And I
Mm,
think everybody should be encouraged to do that when they
mm,
need to. But there's nothing better than hopping on stream. I'm really, really thrilled with the people that not only has Love Wrestling brought on as content creators, but like the people we've brought in. It's always fun to hop on, no matter who's there on the brunch gimmick. Half the time we're surprised with who's going to be on.
mm.
But whether it's myself and Lawrence just hopping on, shooting the shit one on one, or you've got a big group of all of us that are hopped on there. It's always a blast too, and like it's very easy. Maybe the first couple of times it's more difficult to sort of drag yourself on, so to speak. But man, after 3 years now, which again is pretty wild to say, but after 3 years of
Mm.
doing Love Wrestling specifically, it's going to be fun hopping on. You know that there are going to be people who lift your spirits, like the pre-show chat rooms that we've got there on StreamYard. Because
Mm.
again, I know you've hopped on with us before.
Yeah,
Like if you need to hop in a private chat and say, "Hey, I'm not feeling all that up to it today," everybody's there to lift you up and help cover for you on a stream, right?
yeah.
So again, easy is not the right word for it. I don't want to discount like taking days off. Like I'd encourage them like no one's
No, no, I
business,
know
but
what you mean.
it's pretty easy when you're surrounded by great people. As far as calming down after, not really anything outside of the ordinary. I like to read. I don't watch a lot of like new TV. There's not really any like new series or anything like that I'm watching, but I'll always throw on like a couple episodes of Always Sunny or Family Guy or King of like, the shows I grew up watching just because
Yeah,
it's something easy to have on in the background. And like my dog, I don't know if you can hear it every so often. He's banging on the door, but I've
is it
got a
still the
great little
same
2 year
dog?
old. Yeah, he's a 2 year old little Shar Pei. He is the sweetest little pup.
Is it
So
still the same
he
dog
fills a
that
lot
when
of
I
time.
was on shift with when I was on the stream with you and Sean Rossap?
Yep, you betcha it's him.
All
So
right, okay.
he's still the same little sweet dude, but he's definitely a teenager. So he fills my time quite a bit in the best of ways, but nothing really too outside of the ordinary. I don't like crochet or anything like that because let me tell you, carpal tunnel and a lack of skill certainly eliminates that sort of stuff.
That's very, very cool, my friend. So we talked about the content side of Love Wrestling. So before we go into the promotion side, how did it come about that you got to go to the Rumble this year as we record it? As we record it in 2024, you got to go to the Rumble for Love Wrestling. So how did that come about?
I was Elimination Chamber. Unfortunately, the Rumble is still like the white whale for me. I'm
Sorry,
very, very
Elimination
excited.
Chamber, my bad.
Hey, no worries. Man, there's like 15 PLEs a year. I get them. We were just sitting there debating about which Rumble I was writing on. Numbers get hard in wrestling. To be honest with you, man, it's always been a goal of ours, and I think a lot of content creators, but like getting in with some of those major promotions because lots of love. I love interviewing independent professional wrestlers. I love interviewing pretty well anybody, to be honest with you, but it's very, very cool to get the opportunity to get out there for WWE or AEW or any of the major promotions, really. That was just luckily enough the first time that we had the opportunity to go and do some work for WWE. Zach's based in Montreal, Lawrence is based in Montreal, and then myself based in Edmonton. It's a pretty easy travel schedule. Canadian flight prices aren't great sometimes, but they're certainly getting better. And as long as you're smart about when you book them, you can usually make stuff happen. So to be quite honest with you, it was just sort of a wing and a prayer. We had applied for media credentials before and received them for like the local events that we'd gone out to, but never for a PLE or anything like that. So luckily enough, we were just approved this time, which I think is again, luckily enough, because there are a lot of times that you won't get approved, and by no means is that to discredit us or even them, right? They're $1 billion organization that's got to be careful with their tickets. But getting the opportunity to get out there, both with the luck of it, but through the merits of what I think we built here with Love Wrestling, is pretty cool and pretty humbling. So getting out to do that was a lot of fun. Personally speaking, I don't think it could have been any more of a dream for me personally, to get to interview Natalia and then for Zach to interview Sami Zayn. It's funny the way that it sort of worked out, having someone from Quebec and having obviously one of the biggest Albertan professional wrestlers of all time be part of our first media event was fantastic. Nikki Cross was really cool. Her and my mom I literally opened the interview with it, but her and my mom are from the same hometown, Glasgow, Scotland. So that was just, again, the way things sort of work out, was very, very neat. So, we were lucky enough to do that, oddly enough, right now. And shout out to Josh Robinson, who's heading out to Elimination Chamber in Perth. He's already in Perth right now, but he's getting his first opportunity.
Might have aired after. You know what?
Hey, no worries. I will shout Josh out preemptively, postemptively, whatever. Because now he's getting that opportunity. JPJ and Pluggo have had the chance to go to a couple of local shows in their area now too. So it's just very cool to get those chances, right? We're not journalists. I'll just be quite blunt with that right off the bat. We're not, again, breaking any scoops, anything like that. We're purely there as content creators. But based on, the value that our content's had to get those opportunities, pretty freaking cool, to be honest with you.
You talked about there not being journalists. So how do you balance? Because obviously people sometimes don't want opinion-based content. They still want factual content. So how do you, with you not being journalists, how do you balance that? We're just telling you what happened rather than saying, I hated this, for example. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for me, I guess the best way to put it is all in how you approach it, and especially with Love Wrestling, our goal, and there's certainly stuff I don't like. There are certainly tangents we've all been on. I'm certain that anybody who saw myself and JPJ on the same stream the week after the Rock's press conference, I'm certain that we weren't all that happy with it, but we certainly try to avoid skewing to the negative. And like, it's a weird way to put it, but facts are facts. If Roman Reigns pinned Jey Uso in a 20-minute match, well, what am I supposed to say? No, that didn't happen, right? So you give the facts, you give your opinions on the facts, and it's the best way I can put it is, you're not ever going to be for everybody. You're never going to have a 100% positive fandom. So if there are people out there who don't like our content, that's fine. Be respectful. There are content creators I don't like out there and content that I don't like, and that's nothing personal. Same sort of way that if they don't like our content, as long as we're not dicks about it, is the best way to put it. Pretty easy line to walk, I think.
So we talked about the content side of Love Wrestling, but before we get into the promotion side, I have a question for you, Spencer. What do you want the legacy of Love Wrestling as a YouTube channel to be? And then also, do you view the YouTube channel and the social media and the content side as a success overall?
To answer the second question first, yeah, I do. Even if, and it's cheesy to say, but if Love Wrestling shut down tomorrow, I would be very proud of what we've accomplished. Again, both personally and professionally. On the content end of things, to have had the opportunity to check off some bucket list interviews and to get to meet some great people and to get to travel because of work and because of something that I had a hand in creating is really, really cool. I think that whether I was working in wrestling or crocheting or anything like that, getting the opportunity to travel and meet great people because of this work, that's the bottom line because Spencer Love said so. I had to. I'm sorry. I started this sentence. I had to finish it.
Yeah.
But I really do view it as a success just based on that. Views are cool. Getting the opportunity to interview is very, very cool, but it really is, again, cheesy as it sounds, Tom, the people you meet along the way. What do I want our legacy to be? End of the day, man, make wrestling a better place. Really, really just make it a better place. We firmly believe pro wrestling is for everybody. I found my community through this great sport, through this great form of entertainment, through this great form of sports entertainment, whatever box you choose to put it in. So we really just want to leave pro wrestling a little bit better than we found it, whether or not that's doing interviews and, looking in the most extreme of ways, but maybe doing an interview that gets somebody a job elsewhere or gets them over in some way, shape, or form, or gets people the opportunity to, do what we've been lucky enough and I've been lucky enough to do is travel for work and get to see new places and get to meet new people. And yeah, I guess just make wrestling a better place would really be the overall as far as the content goes.
That's very, very cool. So before we do go into how the promotion Love Wrestling was born and things like that, I'm curious to know, you talked about the content creators you already have, such as JPJ, Plabo for Between Two Beards, Lawrence,
Yep.
Zach, and all the other great people from Love Wrestling, because I'm not going to name anymore because I will forget people. And I'll feel really bad. But who are some content creators within the media that you're like, they're fun. I like having them around. I'd like to work with them more.
Joel Pearl. There's a lot of answers, but I've got a lot of time for Joel Pearl. He is a great human being. He is someone that quite literally the first time I met Sean Ross Sapp was the first time I met Joel as well. And just to have the opportunity to see him grow as a content creator, as cheesy as that might sound a little bit, but to sort of see him grow, really, really see him own, in the weeds is a routine watch for me, whether or not it's in the background and I'm just listening or I'm sitting in front of my computer. Joel's a great guy. Jeremy Lambert as well, too, obviously. I got a lot of love for those two. Kate from Fightful, I'd love to work with a little bit more. Never have had the opportunity to work with Denise Salcedo. I'd really, really love to hop on with her at some point. There's a lot of great people out there, man. Same sort of thing as when you're talking about the people with Love Wrestling. There really aren't many people that I wouldn't want to hop on a stream with or at least hang out with for a bit. Pro wrestling, again, is all about meeting new people and making wrestling a better place. And there are a lot of people out there doing that right now. So those would be a few off the top of my head. But frankly, my DMs are open and there are a lot of people that I would be happy to hop back on with. But there's a few there for you.
That's very, very cool, my friend. So as we go into the next step, how do you decide, okay, we've got this great YouTube channel, we're thriving, I want to put on a show?
To be honest, wasn't really my decision. Obviously, again, you kick around the ideas and you shoot the shit with your friends. Again, here's who I'd want to book, or how cool would this match be? Why hasn't anybody ever done this? Yada, yada, yada. But we sort of lucked into finding some sponsors who were interested in putting on a show. And because of the content creation end of things, and because we'd sort of built our name there, we were the first people they approached. So that's why our first show, we were lucky enough to partner with Force Pro Wrestling out here in Edmonton. Great promotion. They've run here. They've run in Grand Prairie. But for us, we just really wanted to take pro wrestling for our view in a different way. So after we ran that first show, like I said, man, I really, really had the bug. I really knew that as soon as I walked out into that ring, and not just a ring in the nicest of ways, but our ring or something under the Love. Yeah, something with the Love Pro Wrestling banner on it. That was a different level for me. It really, really was. So from there was, I think it was the Omicron variant or whichever that they were calling it with the pandemic. That kicked up. So we were unable, we had planned on running in January of 2022. But but we just had to delay that for a bit. So it was March of 2022 that we ended up running our second show, LPW2 Don't Want to Grow Up. And we've been running monthly since then. We're heading in quite literally tonight. We've got our now 11th event in partnership with the Clandestine Wrestling Society. And then tomorrow night is LPW 23 Slamboat Willies. So I know this will come out after, but just maybe we're going to be on show 24 or 25 by the time that this comes out. And that's pretty wild when there were maybe some people out there that didn't think we would make it to show number 2, nonetheless 22.
What did the naysayers, is that the right word? Yeah, naysayers say when you said, "Oh, I'm going to book or we've been approached to book a wrestling show"?
To be honest, we kept things fairly secretive and not in any sort of like malicious way, but like, pro wrestling, and I'm personally not a guy who lets spoilers dictate whether or not I'm going to watch a show. Half the time,
Yeah, I
spoiler is the
understand.
reason I'll watch a show. But
Exactly.
getting that big pop and getting that surprise of like, oh my God, look what these guys are doing. That's huge. And I think when you're doing something for the first time or the second time, you really have to have that that oh shit, you know what I mean? There's a lot of great promotions running in Alberta and Canada as a whole, and if we want to differentiate ourselves, you have to make that little bit of a splash. So there weren't really many people who were naysaying right off the bat because we kept it pretty quiet.
What about after you did your first show? Did you have any people say like, they're never going to come back, this was a one-time thing"?
Oh yeah, we definitely did. We had that after our second show as well too. Almost more after the second show, to be quite open with you, Tom. But I guess what are you going to do is let them dictate what you're going to do, or are you just going to sort of follow your heart with things? And like I said, I fell in love with it. I really enjoyed what I was doing. I was really prepared to, and I should say it's not just myself. I'm the owner, I am the promoter, but there are a lot of people involved in Love Pro to make this happen, right? So, yeah, you sort of follow your heart. You trust the people that you have along your back or alongside you and that have your back. And if you believe in something, you chase it wholeheartedly, I think. So that's the decision we made. And I really think it's paid off in spades. We've had the opportunities to do a lot of really, really cool things, whether inside the rec room or outside of it. And I by no means think that that's the end of the cool things. I think it's just the start.
That's very, very cool. Something I realized as we've been talking is there've been a few YouTube channels or creators that have wanted to start promotions, whether it be the What Culture crew or whether it be DPW with Chris Danker / Chris Danger, CM Pulse, and all those great guys. So how do you differentiate from, yes, we are content creators putting on a show, but we're different from maybe DPW or What Culture Pro Wrestling?
To be honest with you, I think a lot of them are good examples of who to follow. What Culture specifically, like I watched WCPW like no one's business. I really, really enjoyed it. And for me, I think they're a really great brand to follow. I think that we've got to be true to ourselves, both in the wrestling end and in the content end. And again, we talked earlier about just needing to be respectful in criticisms, be open and honest with those, but be respectful is the most important with it. So with the content creation end of things, there have been wrestlers that, whether it be on the content, we've interviewed or people we've tried to book or anything like that, where maybe we've been critical of a match or a promo or something like that. I think a lot of pro wrestlers, if not all pro wrestlers really, with an asterisk for a few of them, obviously, I think as long as you're honest and kind in critiques and come from a place of, again, respect with it, don't be a dick is a pretty good general rule for a lot of things, right? So on the content end, I was worried about it right off the bat, to be honest with you, and how we were going to walk that line. But it has been a lot easier than expected, just based on, I guess, the core values of our brand.
What do you prioritize more? Is it making sure that the content's done for Love Wrestling, or is it making sure that the card's set for Love Pro Wrestling?
I don't sleep very much, Tom.
Ah,
I take equal pride in both. I really, really do. The nice thing is I'm surrounded by great people on both ends. So when we have stuff like this weekend is a perfect example, to be honest with you, where Josh is doing a Love Wrestling takeover of all of our socials, and he's going to be in Perth, and he's going to be interviewing a lot of WWE stars. But we do have a
mm,
live event this weekend. We've got two live events this weekend. We've got a documentary that we're premiering at our show tonight. Like there's
ooh,
a lot going on in the world of Love Wrestling right now, but having a lot of great people by your side, on the days where maybe there's a little more needed help on the content end, well, I can because everybody's got my back on the pro wrestling side, and vice versa. When I've maybe got to lean like I do today and tomorrow more to the wrestling end of things, well, I know I've got Zach and Lawrence and Blair and all of those guys that have my back there too, right? So, there's really no prioritization of either in an overall sense. Day to day, you got to sort of change her up, but
yeah.
yeah, it's been really really nice to be able to do a lot of different things and
That's,
uh, enjoy them all.
so you talked about enjoying them all. Obviously, we all have days where it's like, I've done too much. And you talked about mental health days yourself there. So how do
Yep.
you know when you're, oh, what was that noise? When you're getting into the stage where it's like, I need a mental health day. And how do you
Yep.
switch off when you know I need a mental health day?
Um, I don't know. It's a weird way to put it, man, but it's just like sort of a gut feeling. You know what I mean? I think we all have those days where we wake up and we're full of piss and vinegar, for lack of a better way to put it. And there's the days where you certainly want to stay in bed. And, a lot of the time you do have to drag yourself out and there are commitments that you got to take care of. But um, for me, it's a gut feeling. When you're not feeling it, you're not feeling it. There are days you can push through. There's days you're not. I think you've just got to be honest with yourself on that
Mm.
end of things. I can't put it any better. There's not a science to it. I can't sit and wake up and say, well, I'm at 21% versus 20% today, and that's my threshold. You got to be
Sorry if
honest
that
with
was too
yourself on that.
personal of a question, but
Oh, dude, ask away. It's mental health is something that I know, like not just myself, but a lot of people on the Love Wrestling end certainly advocate for. Huge shout out to some of our contributors right now, and of course, Rich with RK Athletics. Over the last month, they've been doing a challenge of 1,500 push-ups for the month just to raise awareness for men's mental health. I'm
ooh,
uh, Feel free to ask away on that end of things, man, because if there's anything to advocate for, well, there's a lot of things to advocate for, but certainly happy to share on that end.
you talked about there being happy to share and stuff. So when it comes to wanting to share your journey with Love Pro Wrestling and stuff, how do you decide, okay, this is the match we're going to air on the YouTube channel, and this is a match that, say, is just for the punters? Do you know what I mean by that phrase?
Well, yeah, but to be honest with you, man, so one of the biggest things that was a priority for all of us when we started Love Pro Wrestling, A, with the fact that we had a built-in YouTube channel, but B, and somewhat most importantly for B, to be honest with you, it was really, really important to me and to all of us that pro wrestling was accessible. I think that
Mm,
that's one of the things that's been a huge opportunity in just Canadian wrestling as a whole over, really the entire existence of Canadian wrestling. Over the
yeah.
last couple of years, it's certainly gotten a lot better, but there just wasn't a lot of high quality, easily available content. Now, there were promotions doing it, you know what I mean? Shout out to Smash, shout out to C4,
Yeah.
shout out to the IWS, but there weren't a lot of easily accessible promotions on that end. So when we started, we really wanted to prioritize making sure that you could see Love Pro Wrestling as easily as possible. So everything from part of our Friday night events that we hold at the Rec Room, literally every single one of
Oh,
those
my bad.
matches is available. But no, and so that's where we differentiated. So the Thursday night shows that we do with the Clandestine Society, or some of our bot shows where we're collaborating with the Sherwood Park Crusaders or the River Hawks or whoever it might be in Edmonton, that's the sort of stuff that we'll put behind the Patreon. Not everything's 100% available. So you've got free matches on YouTube from our Friday night shows. Thursday night shows you're getting there on the Patreon end of things, and then we're on IWTV now for our full event. So a lot of different ways to skin the cat on that end. But again, you can get quite literally every single Friday night match that we've ever done on the Love Wrestling YouTube channel. Because for me, there's a lot of great wrestlers out here. There's a lot of great referees and commentators and managers that if we can impact in our own small way the ability to see those people more, hell yeah.
That's very, very cool, my friend. So you brought up all the great, not just wrestlers that are there, but commentators, ring announcers, etc. So I'm going to say a category, and you're going to say someone you'd really like to have on a show. So we're going to start with an easy one, wrestler.
See, it's an easy one in the sense that there's like a million of people that I would like to work with. Um, as far as Canada goes, I'd really like to see some more people from the East Coast out here, Quebec out here. Casanova Productions would be great. TDT would be great to have out here. Um, Katrina Creed would be fantastic to have out here,
Mm.
the IWS Women's Champion. There's a ton of people I want to work with, though. Alexia Nicole's on that list. Gabriel Fuerza, we were supposed to work with a couple of months ago, and just flights. Like I was talking earlier, flights are sometimes very
Yeah,
easy in
yeah.
Canada. Sometimes they're really not. So Gabriel Fuerza is still on that list. Really looking forward to hopefully working with him one day. Um, there's a ton, though, man. There's really a ton. You know, Deanna Perrazzo's on that list. John Moxley's on that list. Like, it depends how high you want to take it, right?
Fair enough. What about this one? Referees.
Referees. There's a lot of great referees that we've had the opportunity to work with. I'm gonna cheat a little bit because it's been a while since they've been back. Referee Colton G out of
Okay.
British Columbia. I'd like to work with him again. Referee Joe King, the Pipes and the Stripes. Like to have him back out here again. There's a lot of great referees out here though, and we're lucky enough to have had the opportunity to work with a lot of them. Refi Mark, I think out of
Mm.
British Columbia as well too, would be great to have out.
This is a weird one, but content creators who maybe dabble in like vlogs and stuff like that.
Ooh. Um, I really like Samira. I think
Mm.
Samira is fantastic. If there's a way that we could get her up here, that'd be terrific. We've worked with Alicia too before. Shout out to Alicia. Love to work with her. Sam Laterna, I think, is fantastic. I'd like to work with her. She actually, when she was doing her wrestling training, trained in Calgary, so that'd be really, really cool to get the opportunity to work with her. Um, I'll leave it there for now.
Fair enough.
There's still a
And then,
lot, but it's the same thing as when you start listing everybody, you're bound to leave someone out.
yeah,
So
definitely.
I'll try and limit
And
it.
then ring announcers and commentators as we look at wrapping this up.
Magnum Mellon, Vinny the Voice out of BC. I had the opportunity to work with them when I was out for WrestleCore in August. It'd be great to have them out this way. Um, Who else would I want to work with commentary wise? Honestly, man, Ian Riccaboni is like dream list as far as
Oh,
that goes. I'd love to have him up here. I think him and
he's a
Caprice
dream
are
guest on this, by the way.
yeah, they're absolutely fantastic. And this is by no means to disrespect anyone else. It's fully to credit them. But I think Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman are the best commentary duo out there today. I
Mm.
really, really do. Taz, why not? I'll throw Taz out
Yeah,
there.
fair.
And
And
shout out to
then
Veda Scott, because Veda Scott, by my money, is the best independent commentator in the business right now. And any way that they can be getting more bookings, I love working with them when they're up here. And always, always an open door for Veda Scott.
that's very, very cool. And then just quickly, you talked about ring announcers there, but ring announcers as well.
Me. No one's ring announcing in my ring but me.
Fair, fair.
That being said, shout out because he just got back into wrestling, and that's why I'm actually back ring announcing the Thursday night shows. But the Canadian Goose, Kyle Shaw, shout out to him because he's a fantastic ring announcer. I love working with him. And then you know what? If I have to pick one, I'll take Cobra Kai because again, I had the
Ooh,
opportunity to work with him out in WrestleCore, and he's a great ring announcer and a great mentor, to be honest with you. So he'd be the only other person.
fair enough. As selfishly as a British guy, I'd love to see you come to England. I'm not going to lie, but I'd also love to see Simon Miller on a card. I've
I
said
am a
this.
fellow countryman. I told you I am a
Yeah, I
dual
saw
citizen of
this.
Canada and the
Yeah,
UK. There's a fun little fact for you.
I saw this. Yeah, so I'd love to see Simon on a card, and I'd love to see a card in England. I'm not going
Ooh.
to lie.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was an emergency. Got worried about a flight for a second there. My
No
apologies.
worries. No worries. Yeah, so like I said, I'd love to see that happen in the future, my friend. But
I got a lot of love for Simon Miller.
But as we look at wrapping this up, my friend, because I do want to be respectful of your time, as we discussed, we've done this segment twice before, but we're going to do the traditional wrap up segment, which is generic questions. So, for those
Consider
of
it
you who
done.
may not know, this is where I will ask Spence his favorite match, favorite overall pay per view card, such as Double or Nothing 2019, favorite wrestler's entrance theme, favorite tag team, and favorite wrestler. These are the answers I want to know as a fan. But also, I'm sure Spencer gets asked these on social media quite a bit. So now he'll have a place to be like, guys, I have answered this. Please go watch this.
Buddy,
So
I don't get asked nearly enough questions on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it by the time this comes out
fair
now.
enough. So what's your favorite match as a fan, my friend?
My favorite three matches now, because I used to only have two, but Samoa Joe versus Kenta Kobashi, 2005. CM Punk, John Cena, Money in the Bank, 2011. And just for being there and the experience of it, Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber 2023.
Did you, as someone that was there live, did you have a moment of, I don't think it's going to happen, but on this fall, I thought he was going to do it?
Yep. Oh, multiple. I advocated for Sami Zayn to win, and especially with how everything's gone now, I think Sami Zayn should have. He should have won it.
That's very, very cool, my friend. What about your favorite overall pay-per-view as a fan?
I'm a sucker for a Royal Rumble. I really am. Overall pay-per-view. You know what? I'm gonna go with SummerSlam 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that one.
guessing
Trish
you were
versus
there.
Becky, or Trish Stratus versus Charlotte Flair was rad. Becky and Natty was rad. Getting to see the Fiend's debut was very, very cool. Maybe not the best match, but like Kofi Mania was huge for me. So getting to see Kofi as WWE champion was cool.
Seth versus Brock was fun on that card. I know
Yeah,
it's a big thing to talk about
I
now,
think that'd be my pick. That or SummerSlam 2022, I think it was. 21?
which one?
21 or 22. The one I went with JPJ, because Cena and Roman Reigns was just like dream match. I was psyched to see that.
I think that was 2021, I believe.
Yeah. Pandemic years all get messed up for
Oh
me,
yeah.
man.
What about your favorite entrance theme?
I've got a few. I like Batista's a lot. I like Sami Zayn's a lot. I like the Oddities a lot. Yeah, I think I'll go with Sammy. I think I will have to go with Sammy because it's a banger. It's the
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of song that I can listen to while I'm driving. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I Walk Alone's up there though for sure. That's probably my 1 and 1A. Line in the Sand. That's what I'm going with.
Oh,
That
Evolution.
is Triple H's best theme. Yep,
Yeah,
that
I
or
agree.
My Time. Yep, there we go.
Ooh, there's a debate. But anywho, what about your favorite tag team?
Favorite tag team. It's got to be the Hurt Foundation. I feel like that's too easy, but it's the Hurt Foundation.
Fair enough, pal. And then, as we wrap this up, Spencer, your favorite wrestler of all time?
Bret Hart. I think it has to be Bret. Sami Zayn's definitely up there. But yeah, I think those would be my two.
That's very, very cool, my friend. So as we wrap this up, you know, I end this show on by asking you, what is one piece of content? Because I believe with social media, we're all sort of going to live forever in some sort of very strange way if you think about the world. So what is one piece of content you're like, I'd like to be remembered for that, and one piece of content you don't? And then in your case, what is one match you'd love wrestling to be remembered for, and one? No, actually, I'm not going to be mean and say that. I'm just going to say what is one match you'd love wrestling to be remembered for?
I think on the content end, to be honest with you, I'm proud of the interviews that I do. I don't know if there's one specific one that I would say right now. I got the opportunity to chat with Chelsea Green a couple of months ago. Chatting with Natalia again was just very, very cool because getting the opportunity to maybe ask her about some questions that weren't quite WWE centric, but getting asked about time back in Alberta and that sort of stuff was neat. I take a lot of pride in my interviews. So I'd just say pick one of my more recent ones. Piece of content I don't. Man, I think everybody's early content, the first of anything you ever do is always your worst. It always, always is. So probably something early. I don't know if there's anything specific. There's not really anything that I'm like embarrassed about by any means with any of my content, but like some of the early stuff I'm certain with, you know, you just learn how to be enthusiastic on the mic, or like we were talking earlier with audio settings, or even just little stuff like that, that I know I could have probably done a better job of. So that would be it. A match that I hope we're remembered for. There's a few. Um, I think Zoe Sager versus Michael Richard Blaze is right up there from LPW 11. I think Gigi and Zoe and their 3 Stages of Hell match was pretty meaningful. It sort of closed out like a 3-year, 4-year feud through Alberta. I really liked having that here. MRB and Speedball Bailey was very cool to get the opportunity to host. I think those would probably be the 3 that I would go to right off the bat. But to be honest with you, Tom, like I couldn't be more proud. Like even if you were to give me what's one match that you're not proud of, there really aren't many. Our roster, I really believe, is second to none. That ain't just chatting in Alberta. That's talking worldwide. The people we've got involved with our promotion are again just second to none. Whether as wrestlers or whether as people. So those would probably be the 3 matches I would point to right off the bat. But there isn't a match that if I was to walk by a proverbial TV screen and see a Love Pro Wrestling match on, there wouldn't be something I wouldn't stop for.
That's very, very cool. And to be honest, my friend, a beautiful way to end this. So I'm going to give you the opportunity. Plug this, my friend. You're a very good guy. I always enjoy talking to you. So plug your good work, my friend. Where can the good people find
same
you?
goes, dude.
Where can they find Love Wrestling and everything in between, pal?
Thank you, man. You can find us wherever podcasts are played, videos reviewed, or awesome content's created by awesome people at Love Wrestling CA. For me specifically, follow me at Spenny Love. But to be honest with you, you'll find all of my stuff through Love Wrestling anyways. And if you're going to support me, I'd really ask that you support everybody that we've got as part of the site. There's a lot of great stuff. Like I said earlier, I really, really am proud of what we've done so far. But it's just the start. It really, really is. So throw some love there. If you want to come out and see us in live and in the flesh, Love Pro Wrestling runs events at the final Thursday and Friday of every month in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada at the Rec Room South Common. So you can pick up tickets online at tixr.com/Love Wrestling, or maybe some will be available at the door. We've been selling out pretty far in advance for our latest events, but maybe take a chance, maybe take a flyer, but come say hi. We'd love to see you.
It's very, very well worth doing. Now, like I said, not only one of the fun promotions to go to, not only one of the funnest YouTube channels to be on, but one of the nicest people as well, including this good man as well. So if you guys like this, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Tom Talks Rubbish on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter or X at Tom Talks Rubbish, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye now. Thank you.